So this branch in right here, there's, you know, a thicker part that's coming downwards, and it's almost the same thickness as the branch back here. Not quite, but similar. There's a thinner branch coming up top that's shooting upwards. So I don't want my drooping branches, so I can take that bottom one off and develop this one. So I will. Here I go. Like that. So now it's coming upwards, and I've got a good change of taper in my branch, which is really nice to have. Now there's another drooping branch here. I think I can take that right off, and this right off, and this right off. And this one's dead, so I'll take that off. So that helps that branch a lot. There's another droopy branch here I can remove. I'll take it right off. By removing all those hanging branches, that's improved the underside of my canopy. It's more horizontal, a little flatter. I may still do a bit of touching up later on, but I'm going to go on with the rest of the canopy. The next step is to go above the tree and look down at it. And I always want to maintain an oval shape similar to the pot size, because that's how they grow in nature. The sun rises on this side of the tree, comes across the canopy and sets on this side. So you get more rounding left to right, less rounding front to back, because it doesn't get sunshine coming in this direction. And yeah, the trees tend to grow in this elongated oval shape when viewed from above in nature. And I want to grow my oval shape out evenly. You can see right now, here's my oval shape, and I got all these branches jutting out here. So I got to prune those back. And it's a little long on the front here. I've got to prune that back. So yeah, re-establishing that nice oval shape when viewed from above is my next step. I've got the tree on the ground here, and this is the part that always hurts, because, you know, removing some of this foliage off here reduces the overall width of the canopy. It always makes the canopy look a little smaller, but it does grow out nice and evenly then. You always got to think of the future. All right, here I go. I'm going to, you know, this is about my width here, so I'm going to just prune it back, and this is like a profile prune, which is exactly what I'm doing, pruning it to an oval shaped profile. And I'm basically following the, you know, similar to the pot shape. Getting rid of those long branches. Is that the front? Yeah, out the front here. And this is the back of the tree back here. So I'm going to prune that back also. And this oval shape, I mean, it doesn't have to be perfect. If you make it too perfect, it'll look artificial, but it's got to be basically an oval shape. You can see there's some fairly hard pruning that side. So that's not bad. It's a little heavy at the back here. I'll take some more off here. It's still a little heavy here. That's looking better. I'm sure it's changed the front view quite a bit. I haven't seen it from the front. It always looks smaller, the canopy, after doing this. But you can see it's really equalized the vigor. So, you know, there's not one big shoot jutting out here. It's growing fairly evenly, and that's what you want. You want the canopy to grow evenly. You don't want sections of it getting really long and thick. Maintaining the balance, that's the secret. Okay, let's get it back on the bench and see what it looks like in the front view now. Here it is from the front view now, and it has made the tree look a lot more compact and higher now. It really makes this canopy look tall. I want to look from the front now and see if any of these sides need shortening. And this is for the overall balance, the centering of the canopy over the trunk line. You know, is it too long on this side? Is it too long on this side? Do I need to prune one of these edges back further? I'm looking from the front here. To me, it looks quite balanced over the trunk line. I think that looks good. I think it's, you know, the mass on this side is pretty equal to the mass on this side. Yeah, it doesn't look too bad. So you can see that canopy needs a lot of reduction in height. It's getting really poofy looking. And I think that'll come with my creating my branch layers. I'm going to start with the lower branches and work upwards and see how it looks. To get some branch definition, I follow the branch up. So, you know, the major branch is underneath, and I isolate what's attached to that branch. So on this one, I have this lower portion. So I can prune that to shape. Pruning it flatter and also getting definition so it's not interfering with the other pads around it. So there's some long shoots that are crisscrossing the other surrounding pads. Taking some height off. So that's kind of got that pad flatter. It's got some space around it. That's where I'll leave it for now. I'll work my way around the tree, creating all my pads that are attached to each of these branches, getting them kind of flat, and hopefully I'll get some separation between the pads eventually so you can see through the tree a bit. I'm also going to pay attention to the underside of the pads, making them flat underneath so there's nothing sticking down, so I can get that layer separation. This is quite ruthless work, creating these flat pads. I'm pruning off a lot of branches. I'll show you a close-up of what I've done so far. Here's a look at the flat pads I'm trying to create. So I'm having to go in and moving a lot of this upward growth on the pad, flattening them out. You know, sometimes doing some fairly hard pruning. But the tree is vigorous and it'll certainly bud back and respond to this kind of treatment. But it's not easy to do on your tree. But I think, you know, in the end, it's going to create a really cool, mature looking tree. I'm also making sure that every one of these branch pads has light coming straight down on it, that it's not hidden by a branch overlapping it. So, you know, these are the branches furthest out in the canopy. And then as you come into some of these other pads, they can't overhang these existing ones. So we've got to make it more compact as I work away towards the top. I've been working on these pads for 5 years, so you know, I am getting a bit of a structure with each branch. So the more you do it, the more defined these pads will get. There's some really vigorous long shoots sticking straight up here that need to be pruned back. There's what it's looking like so far. It's getting definition. I don't know if I'm, you know, getting that space between my pads yet, but I'll keep working away at it. I find even though I'm hard pruning some of these branches, as long as they get sunlight on them, they'll back bud and grow. You don't want to hard prune a branch that's in the shade or it'll just die off. And this tree is really vigorous, so it's a good time to prune it. I wouldn't do this kind of operation you know, in the dead of winter. It's better when it's out in the sunshine. It's got really good conditions for growing. Not only to get the branches flat on my hard pruning, but to get the pads separate. It takes a lot of pruning. I think what I'll do is I'll work around creating my outer layer first, and then I'll be stepping in, doing the second kind of tier of branching, and then, you know, move up until I'm right at the crown. I think that's a good strategy for pruning. So I'm creating all these flat pads on the outer part of the canopy now. Again, some pretty ruthless pruning. But as long as they have light, they'll be all right. It's going to look different when it's done, I can tell you that. Hopefully for the better. If not, I mean, it'll grow in quite quickly if I don't like it. I've kind of got the outer profile done. It's looking better. So now I can start bringing it in, doing some of these clouds or pads up higher. So I'm making sure, you know, nothing from the top overlaps these bottom branches. So I'm, you know, having to prune these bottom pads, or these upper pads, in tighter. Giving all these lower ones light. It's looking good though. Pretty sure I'm on the right path. It's just a tough path to take. I'm working on some of these upper pads now, so you can see here's my branch. So I'm isolating the branch and then pruning it off flat. Almost a profile pruning to the branch itself, just to get the shape. Here's another one I'll do now. Another one over here. One here. Isolate the branch. Prune it off. Another one here I can isolate. Hard pruning. So it's getting there, but I still need more definition. You can see there's a lot of branches that are kind of pointing back towards the center of the tree that need pruning back. I want pad definition around each pad. This pad is interfering with this one, so I've got to prune the perimeter. That lets some light into the interior of the tree too. So here I've got a whole bunch of branches close to each other, so I've got to simplify that. So I come down and I prune that whole kind of knobby top off it. Get a nice smooth flowing branch then. This is kind of congested here, so I gotta bring these pads back. I haven't looked at the front view of the tree in a while. I think I better do that. See what it's looking like. All right, let's go down to the front view now. Over here. Okay, here's a look at the tree. So it is getting there. I can see some separation in the branches. Maybe I don't have enough yet. I could simplify it even more, trying to get more separation in here. My canopy is probably, it's not bad, but it's a little full still. I could reduce the apex a bit. And I could also prune this lower profile under the canopy, raise it up a bit, I think. It's a little low at the front. So yeah, so now I'm kind of in the aesthetic refining stage of this structure kind of pruning. So I'll keep at it. Here it is now after a little more refining. It's looking better. I've got the canopy reduced in height, kind of down a bit. The edges are kind of thinned out on each side, the right and the left-hand side. I've raised the canopy up on the bottom here, so you can see a bit of that branch structure. Yeah, I think it's coming along nicely. Certainly looks more mature when you get these pads rather than just like a big dome, topiary type dome on top. Yeah, it makes the tree look larger and more, I don't know, looks more like an acacia, I guess, or a miniature tree. Yeah. Okay, so I still have some refining to go at the back, and I'll keep working away at it. I have finished the pruning. So here's a view from the top. You can see how much more open it is. Yeah, I think it's looking quite nice. It's much improved. That canopy's looks a lot better. It's a little bit narrower, but as I said, you know, you got to grow it out evenly, carefully, slowly. Yeah, I think that's certainly looking more acacia-like. A lot more open at the top. It'll probably fill in quickly again, but we'll keep at the pruning. Nice, I like it. I'm going to do some cleanup work around the tree, getting the moss removed from the root base, cleaning up all the dead leaves, making it look nice. Now the hard part, I've had an offer from a potter in the Toronto Bonsai Society that will make me a custom pot for this. And that's pretty exciting. I'm looking forward to that. The hard part is I've got to come up with dimensions. And that's the hard part. Like, do I plan for a pot for the future? Do I make the pot look perfect for the tree now? Because this tree is going to grow, and my intent is to grow the tree larger. You know, the canopy wider, and yeah, just generally larger, scaling it up. So, you know, eventually this giant pot it's in now might be the right size for the tree. So I've got to think, what size do I make this new pot? It's going to be a tough one. And the color of the pot will be similar to the trunk, so dark with kind of greeny gray a glaze on it. So it'll be a nice pot. I'm really looking forward to getting that made, or having that made. I still have to decide on the size of it though, and that's the hard part. So I'll think about it as I'm cleaning up the tree. Getting rid of all these leaves that have fallen down. The ones I've pruned away. The work that I've done today, if I were preparing this tree for a show, I wouldn't do this type of work today. Like, it couldn't go in a show right away because it's too pruned looking. So the ideal time to show this tree after doing this operation would be when the new foliage is starting to grow in. So maybe, I don't know how long it'll take on this tree. Maybe 2 weeks from now, maybe 3 weeks, I don't know. We'll keep track of it. I'll show an update when the new foliage is coming in, and it should look pretty nice. You won't see all these kind of sharp branch ends where I pruned it. It'll be a little softer looking, but it'll still maintain all these pads and definition. So yeah, I think it'll look nice in a couple of weeks. Here's a look at the pot that the tree was in. This was the previous pot, and this is the size of the pot I have it in now. So I was thinking for the new pot, somewhere in between. So exactly in between the previous pot and the new pot, and I think that would be the ideal size. I'm hoping. I think this bigger pot, like, I think it would take, I don't know,
I mean, this tree has grown fast in the last, if you go back to the start of the channel, the very first year of the channel, and you see me planting this tree, I'll put a link to the playlist in the description below. You can go back and you can see how small this tree was 8 years ago. So I'm thinking 8 years into the future. So this is why my decision is very tough, because, you know, I'm planning for the future and I don't want to get this perfect pot and it's, you know, too small in 3 or 4 years. Tough decision, tough decision. I've been doing some thinking about this pot situation. I think the question I got to ask myself is, when do I want to display this tree? You know, if I want to display it in 20 years, well, obviously it's going to fill this pot in 20 years. So I think the question is maybe in the next year or two, maybe for displaying the tree. You know, maybe the Toronto show or something. So I think a pot somewhere in between these two will be fine. I think that'll be good. See how the pot looks, and if it's a perfect pot, and then the tree outgrows the pot, at least I have a pot. I can say I want the same pot, just 15% bigger or 20% bigger, something like that. Yeah, so I've cleaned up the root base a bit. I need to get out the, you know, the toothbrush and the water and just clean some of that algae off of it. I've got a pot of rainwater here that I can dip my toothbrush in and scrub off the algae on the trunk. That's got the root base cleaned up on the tree, and I think that's all the work I'll be doing on my Serissa today. Tom from the YouTube channel Grow and Clip Bonsai for Seniors spoiled me once again and sent me a present. Do you remember those tags I was making up to identify all my seeds that I was planting? Well, he sent me a whole bunch of tags, hundreds of them. So they just go in your soil like that. So I thought, well, I've got so many of them, it'd be nice to write the name of each tree on it and maybe the date that I started it and put it in the garden, so when someone comes over they can wander around the bonsai garden and just, they'll know what species of tree it is and approximately how old it is. So thanks, Tom. Another fantastic gift. I did some fairly severe pruning on my Serissa today, and it'll be interesting to see how long it takes before all the new foliage starts growing in and the tree starts to look really nice. It's kind of nice information to have if you're preparing your tree for a show. And that's all for today. I'm Nigel Saunders. Thanks for joining me in the Bonsai Zone.